So I had network issues trying to talk to Marquette Devon, the saint, the sinner. Um, but also it was crowded there. There were so many people. And then he got really vulgar with one of the guys, just insulting him. So I just left. Here are the things, right? Social stratification in South Africa, it's a class issue, right? But the class issue is not just a money issue. There's also a language issue. Our languages are not developed. Our languages are not languages of business. So people who come here sometimes also just have that advantage for businesses that they just know English. And so it's just easier to use them than the locals. And also the underdevelopment of South Africa due to apartheid and Bantu education happened and was not fixed. They haven't been committed. South Africans know of issues with delivery of books. There isn't a culture of reading in South Africa. What happens is you see a lot of people that are doing well in the spotlight, and then we start to think that's the whole South Africa. This guy makes fun of us talking English. I speak English the way I speak English because I went to English school since I was 8 years old. Colored school, and then a white school, right? I'm just saying it blatantly because they mixed as I was in them, but I was the minority for a lot of the time. This guy makes fun of people when they cannot speak proper English himself, and that's exactly what a lot of Africans do. So he says it's a malnourished. We're malnourished. He says we're dying of AIDS. We know what's going on in the States with STDs spreading. There was something called Spring Break. 40,000 people caught STDs. 40,000. We're not alone. We're not the only rotten apple here. So what I'm trying to say is, we don't support violence. We don't support brutality. But illegal is illegal, and this is where the government comes in. Illegal is illegal. Whoever selling drugs, moving drugs, whatever it is to do with crime should be all caught, whether they're South African or not, right? And so when we are dealing with crime that's not dealt with, we often deal with the people, and that's part of what's happening. But you cannot just then just say it's all of South Africa hating other people. There is that because of the situation where we are underdeveloped, and then they let everybody in at the same time. Like, okay, even in universities, there was an issue with employment of academics from outside at the expense of those inside, and we do have things to redress. Just like America has DEI, we have affirmative action, we have employment equity, and a lot of that ends up getting when you talk about jobs, right? It ends up benefiting other blacks who are not South African, who are not previously disadvantaged. But even with the people who are not academics and intellectuals and such, like the undocumented ones, some of them, we don't know if they're child warriors in their country. These are dangerous people. South Africa is inadequate in terms of so many things, just locals. And I find that we're dealing with a situation where, when I've dealt with racism from not just white people, but the colored people and the Asian people, and also just, let me say, I call it black hatred from people who are elite, middle class and up, who don't like local black South Africans. What Marquette is doing is the same thing that they do, which is you look at everybody, you say, okay, these are the pretty girls, I'll just take them, everybody else is ugly. And so it's like that, where it's like everybody else is just not articulate, not all this here. And it's easy when you're an entrepreneur, you're not a moral leader. You're trying to make a profit, so you're going to deal with those people. So these are real issues that end up affecting people's bread and butter, because you're making sure they're not developed as a nation, and you're bringing developed people into the thing, and then you're also bringing very uncivilized, undocumented people that you cannot account for. You don't know what they're good at, what they know. You don't know where they're from. You know, it's not that easy. But I realize that this guy is just a disrespectful guy in general. He's condescending, very prejudiced. He'll say things like, "Oh, like now he said, you guys are weak. You let women lead you. You let women rule you." So he doesn't believe in gender equality. He is a misogynist. He says he lectures around the world and all this kind of stuff. So he's better than us. So he's better than us in all ways, you know. More power to him. But I hope we sort this thing out like human beings, because honestly, anywhere I go, I'll take my hat off. If you say I must take my shoes off, I'll take my shoes off in your house, you know. I show respect. And a lot of these people are showing no respect. And something has to give. I disagree with that. Everybody should just come in. It should be borderless. That's not a country then. What about sovereignty? As long as we have sovereignty, it should be respected. But at the same time, we cannot just paint everything with the same brush and act like all Nigerians are like this and all South Africans are like this. Yeah, we have to deal with it rationally. Our government will always be to blame though, because they run the country. You're making it look like black people don't know how to run a country. You know, I'm very upset about that because that's what it looks like. You know, at the same time, we're very weak. We're not strong enough to really go to war with some of these countries. 6% of South Africa has degrees, and I think in total, like 4% is black. You know, that's crazy. And with the other demographics, higher percentages of them have degrees. You know, so that's not cool. That's not cool, and it's gonna make us have a situation where we cannot talk rationally. Where life is just unfair, and then anger happens. You know, so yeah, that's my point. My point is that you cannot bully us into accepting just anybody in this country. At the same time, we cannot be brutal to people. We've dealt with brutality ourselves. We cannot be animalistic and rape people and abuse people. You know, those are still human beings, still God's earth. You know, I really believe that. Okay, I know people don't listen all the way to the end, and not everybody will get to this part, but it's just about love first, man. Love first, you know. Love your nation as a government. You guys were revolutionaries. Do right by people, and then when you're dealing with exodus of people, letting them go back to their countries, do it properly. And the outside world shouldn't paint us all with the same brush, because these are very complex issues, you know. Severe underdevelopment. This guy says we all think we're white. You cannot think you're white when you cannot speak English. You cannot read. People leave school unable to read their own language and English. I mean, speak properly, articulate. You understand? It's very slapdash what they're doing to the black kids and the black communities. And people like us slip through the cracks, you know, but we don't get into positions of political power because, again, they're taking care of the other people, and then you end up with people that can't handle discourse. You know, Julius Malema has grown up in front of us. He wasn't like this. He gets emotional, insulting. You've seen how they stop opening of parliament. You're dealing with that kind of stuff, and a lot of us don't want that aggression. I'm from the streets. I'm good at fighting and all that kind of stuff, but that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I want to do when I'm discussing issues of South Africa, of society. And a lot of politicians want to fight when they don't agree with each other. And so a lot of us have backed off because it's dangerous to just speak your mind. And that's the challenge. It keeps going on. We cannot handle it in 10 minutes or 5 minutes. But we cannot be bullied for being unhappy. I'm happy to protest. I'm making noise, and they get into government. I'm not happy with the brutality. The government of this country, the governments across the world, everybody must understand there is a crisis and look at themselves. A lot of these countries say they're Christians and Muslim and whatever. Then remember the rule. Would you like it if it happened to you? You know, just like we should. Would you like it if it happened to us? That's how we should start dealing with this thing. Ethical reciprocity. And then there'll be fairness, because the countries have to take their people back that are criminals, that are, undocumented, that are just evicted from the property. So, you know, if there's a situation where people don't have papers, we do not absorb them. We send them back, and they get their papers done. It happens to South Africans all around the world. They have to get their papers right. So that's all we want. But no violence, no brutality. I cannot support that. Thank you.